Hey, Chris Scott here. I'm going to do a quick video on what alcohol withdrawal actually feels like, because I remember when I was struggling with alcohol withdrawal years ago, I would Google alcohol withdrawal symptoms and I would get some stupid WebMD article with dry terminology, or it was just very bland and boring, and I couldn't relate to whoever wrote the article. And I didn't know if I was going crazy or having alcohol withdrawal or if I had an anxiety disorder. I was totally clueless. And so my purpose in making this video is to tell a couple stories about my past that reflect the progression of alcohol withdrawal as my addiction got worse over time. And so as you'll see, it started out as a kind of a social activity, and there were binges involved in college, and then it got to the point where I was drinking close to a handle of vodka a day. And so my withdrawal in the beginning was barely perceptible, and by the end, it was actually what forced me to go get help. And so my purpose in talking to you about this is that hopefully you can relate to some of my stories or some of my experience, and if you do, then it'll give you some motivation to make a change, because I remember being totally trapped in nihilism and not thinking that change would be possible. And honestly, nothing could be further from the truth. No matter how far down you've gone, you can climb out of the abyss. So with all of that said, I guess I'll take you back to my college days when I drank more than all of my friends, but it was still kind of it was a social activity for me. And I would have binges on weekends. Sometimes they'd spill over, we'd have Tanqueray Tuesdays and, a liquor for every day of the week. But I was the only person who seemed to drink on nights in my group of friends who still drank on nights that we weren't doing anything. And so I know my friends were a little bit confused, like, why is Chris drinking? There's no party, we're not pre-gaming, there's nothing. And, I realized that was a problem, and so I said, this is silly, I need to stop. And I remember the first time I kind of took a week or so off of drinking in college, and the first few days felt weird. There was no anxiety or shaking or anything crazy, but it felt foreign for me not to have a drink in my hand and to be hanging out with people. And, that was alarming to me because I had the best friends in the world. To this day, my best friends are the guys who I met in college. They're like brothers to me. And they've been totally supportive of me since I quit drinking. And they don't drink very much themselves. They've grown up. But as I said, I was the only one, it seems, with a biochemical predisposition in my close group of friends. And so I did have what I now recognize as minor alcohol withdrawal back in college, which just took the form of wanting to drink alcohol. So I guess you could say alcohol cravings were my only symptom of alcohol withdrawal when I was mildly dependent on alcohol. So fast forward a few years, and I'm in the workforce, and I live in New York City. I'm working in finance, and I would drink almost religiously a bottle of wine every night. And so I figured that was sustainable. I'd read about lots of people who had done the same thing. It didn't seem to be a big deal. I was basically a French person as far as I was concerned. I was sophisticated, a wino. And I, at some point, was unhappy with my weight. And so I tried to stop, and I did. I stopped drinking that wine for a certain period of time. And the first few days that I stopped drinking the wine, I just felt off. I felt like it was the alcohol craving that had always been there when I stopped drinking was there, but also it was like I was bummed out. I wasn't having crippling anxiety or anything, but I was just feeling kind of depressed. Like these negative thought patterns would start in my head, and I could shut them off, and after a few days I would start feeling a little bit better. So unfortunately, inevitably what happened was someone threw a party, or I went out to some boozy dinner and I got stuck back in the cycle. And once again, I was back doing my bottle of wine thing, and I stopped judging myself for it. And I eventually switched to, I needed more than a bottle of wine to feel the exact same way because my tolerance was increasing. And I started drinking hard alcohol at home, and I would make martinis and such. Then eventually I lost the, trying to put some veneer of sophistication on it and started just pouring myself glass cups of vodka and sipping it straight, neat, as I would say. And at a certain point, I became alarmed once again with how much I was drinking, and so I stopped, and I felt very bad. I realized at that point that when I stopped, my alcohol withdrawal felt like I would have tremors in my hand. I would have nightmares while half asleep. I felt very depressed. I couldn't sleep. And so at this point, if I wanted to quit drinking, the trade-off was a whole night with no sleep, because I was not going to sleep. I had zero strategies for sleep that did not involve alcohol. And so at that point, I'm sure I took a little break, and then I went right back to it. I'm sure someone threw a party, or I went to a boozy dinner once again, and I was back in the cycle. And I became a little bit jaded by my attempts to quit. I figured, you know what? Quitting alcohol is so hard and it sucks so much that maybe it's not even worth it. You know, I have too much to do. I don't want to focus on quitting drinking. I'm fine. You know, I'd gotten some promotions at work. I was doing all right. And so over time, again, fast forward another couple years of abusing my body with increasing, but imperceptibly increasing amounts of alcohol, I got to the point where somehow I was drinking well over a fifth a day, and I was still highly functional. And, you know, it sounds insane, but I had just decided that it was too hard to try to quit. And so I wasn't going to judge myself for drinking anymore. And so I was going to drink as much as I wanted, as often as I wanted to, because clearly I was competent. I was smart enough to get things done. Maybe I was like Winston Churchill or James Bond or other, you know, exaggerated or fictional characters who can live life while drinking like a fish and do awesome things and, you know, work hard, play hard. So it got to the point where if I woke up in the morning and I wanted a shot of tequila, I would take it and then go to work. And then if at 1 p.m. I wanted to go drink some wine, I would go drink some wine. And I guess I should qualify that, because wanting to is not quite the right word. I would start getting warning signs that it was time to drink, in the form of both of my hands shaking too hard for me to type on my computer, my focus completely leaving me and going elsewhere. I would start feeling restlessness radiating from my bones. I would get a cold sweat on my forehead. I would have terrifying thoughts about death or just very grotesque, morose things. And all of that, when that happened, which was usually at this point just a couple hours after my last drink, I would have to go drink again. And so it actually got to the point, after several months of allowing myself to drink like a fish however I wanted, because apparently I was special, I got to the point where if I went to bed, if I passed out at 10 from drinking, I would wake up at midnight or 1 in the morning and drink more. And so that was clearly unsustainable. And I have to tell you, when it got to that point, things just got worse and worse. I mean, I just reached a point of neurotransmitter deterioration or brain balance deterioration that there was no coming back from unless I sought professional help. And so that's exactly what I did. And, you know, the subject of this video is not how I recovered, because I could talk all day. I could digress all day about my philosophy of alcohol recovery. But my point is, there's a big disconnect between what you usually read about alcohol withdrawal and the actual experience, the actual living it. You know, I can remember one of the last episodes I had of alcohol withdrawal, when I had severe withdrawal, I felt like people were tapping on my body. I could hear voices that I knew weren't there, but ugly voices calling my name. And it would kind of echo throughout my apartment. I felt like reality was a kind of terrifying roller coaster ride. I would get these dizzy spells and have to sit down and have these weird out-of-body experiences in which I didn't know if I didn't feel connected to the universe or to myself or to society. I felt totally alienated and just in the depths of nihilism. That's what alcohol withdrawal feels like. And so, at least that's what severe alcohol withdrawal feels like. So I guess, there are 2 points that I'm trying to make in this video. The first is, don't make the mistake, if you're in the early phases of addiction to alcohol, don't make the mistake that I made, which was, I thought to myself once in college, well, thank God I'm not an alcoholic. I've never had a seizure. I don't have withdrawal symptoms. I guess that's just not me. Because later on, much later, I eventually got to that point in a way that was really imperceptible to me, which is the scary part. And the second point is that, alcohol withdrawal is something that is so difficult to explain if you've reached the depths of it in severe withdrawal, that you're probably not going to find much online about your actual experience. You might think you're going crazy. I thought I was losing my mind. I would actually Google schizophrenia, because I figured I was schizophrenic. I thought to myself, well, everyone drinks and I'm the only one who has this problem. Little did I consider that I was drinking so much more than the average person, that much alcohol actually could drive a person insane. And so I guess I was temporarily insane, but it's 100% possible to get back from the brink. And if that's your goal, then be sure to cover every base in recovery as you climb out of that place. But as I said, I want to digress about that. I just want to help someone. If this video resonates with one person, then that's a good thing, and let you know that you can absolutely get better. As I said, I'm in my 5th year alcohol free, and I still have ups and downs, but the ups are actually higher than they ever were in my drinking years, and the downs are much higher. So the downs are much better, and the ups are much better. And that's not what I heard. When I was in detox, people said, oh, life's kind of flat after you quit drinking. The ups aren't as up, and the downs aren't as down. I've found that the downs aren't as down, but the ups are actually higher. And maybe that's because I've found lots of things to replace drinking with. But regardless, that's all for today. I wanted to keep this video short, but if you enjoyed it, please subscribe or give me a thumbs up, and stay posted for more. Thanks for watching.